Alright, let's see if we can line him up, and spiky balls straight down the throat. That is so satisfying. Hey there, my name is Soundtrack, and welcome back to another episode in my Terraria Journey's End Beginner's Guide series. In this episode, we're going to be taking down the Eater of Worlds in all difficulties, Classic, Expert, and Master mode. And if you're wanting a quick tutorial on For the Worthy Master mode, check out a 1-minute guide I did previously, link up in the corner. Timestamps are down in the description, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions. And as always, if you find this type of content helpful, informative, or at the very least somewhat entertaining, please hit that like button, and if you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the channel. Now let's get to it! The Corruption's counterpart to the Crimson's Brain of Cthulhu, the Eater of Worlds is generally the second main boss you'll face in worlds that have the purplish-themed evil biome, and the shadow scales it drops are needed to realize the full benefits of the demonite ore of your Corruption world. As with the Brain, there are two ways to summon the Eater of Worlds. The first is by smashing shadow orbs that exist in the bowels of the Corruption biome, with every third smashed orb summoning the boss. As with Crimson Hearts, you'll likely need to use explosives to gain access to the orbs, and once close by you can either blow them up with a bomb or smash them with any hammer. The first orb smashed will always drop a musket and 100 musket balls, which, if you don't have them already, will allow the arms dealer NPC to arrive in your world. Other drops include the Spin to Win Ball of Hurt Mace, the Vile Thorn Magic Weapon, which has excellent enemy and solid block piercing properties, and the Mana Boosting Band of Star Power Accessory, which can be further upgraded into a number of other magical related accessories. Shadow Orbs can also drop a light pet, the Shadow Orb, which I find to be a far more tolerable alternative to its Crimson counterpart. The other way to summon the Eater is to craft worm food at an evil altar, using 15 rotten chunks that drop from corruption mobs, and 30 vile powder crafted from vile mushrooms that grow on corrupted dirt. Vile powder can also be purchased from the Dryad during a blood moon. Once summoned, the Eater of Worlds will emerge from a nearby location, sometimes on screen, sometimes off, and sometimes in the middle of solid blocks. The boss itself is a many-segmented wormy worm snaky thing that will thereafter burrow around and periodically charge towards you, much like Devourer worms, only a whole lot bigger. Each individual segment has its own life bar, and every one of them must be destroyed to defeat the boss. And when destroyed, the segments can drop hearts and mana crystals, as well as shadow scales for additional demonite ore crafting recipes. All segments have the same amount of life, but the head does more damage with less defense, the body is in the middle, and the tail does the least damage but has the highest defense. Pro tip, try to hit the head while not getting hit by the head. On normal difficulty, the fight is pretty darn easy. The boss is still big and long, but doesn't move too fast and doesn't hit very hard. On higher difficulties, the health, damage, and defense all go up, and the boss also moves faster. Additionally, on Expert or higher, each segment can fire vile spit projectiles that deal damage and have a chance to inflict you with the weak debuff that lowers your defense by 4, melee damage and attack speeds by 5.1%, and movement speed by 10%. These projectiles can be destroyed easily though by any weapon, as they only have 1 hit point. But if you fight the boss above ground on Expert or Master mode, it moves faster and shoots the vile spit constantly, making the spit very difficult to avoid. On these difficulties, as well as in a For the Worthy world, it is highly recommended that you fight the Eater in an underground arena to decrease the amount of spit. Speaking of fighting arenas, you won't need a ton of space to move around, but whether you fight it above or below ground, you'll likely want at least 3 levels of platforms and about a half to maybe a full screen's worth of horizontal area. On normal difficulty, you can really fight the Eater just about anywhere so long as you have half decent gear and life, and on all difficulties, if you find yourself getting constricted, a good way out is to use your grappling hook. On Expert or Master mode, it's a good idea but not necessary to set up shop below ground, and the easiest way to clear out an arena is to find 2 vertical chasms that are somewhat close together and blast out the middle with explosives. If you like smooth edges, scarab bombs from the desert are highly effective. Standard arena buffs are always helpful: Campfire, Heart Lantern, and Star in a Bottle if using magic, and if you've been to the jungle, set up a honey bath for the added health regen buff. You can set up a sunflower by placing dirt and throwing grass seeds from the dryad and then planting the sunflower, which won't get corrupted because sunflowers naturally block corruption spread. And as with all boss fights and events, feel free to add potions as needed to help the fight go better. Standard issue, Iron Skin, Swiftness, and Regeneration are the basics, with additional potions as needed, as well as, of course, a good food buff. For more on potions and buffs in general, be sure to check out my modifiers and buffs guide, link up above. As far as gear goes, whatever armor you're using, it's a good idea to have at least 26 defense on Classic and Expert difficulty, and at least 31 defense on Master Mode, which is really easy to do. This much defense will allow you to reduce damage from the body and tail segments to the minimum damage of 1 HP, which will allow you to ride the worm like a surfing pro. Get to 44 defense and you can tank hits from the head in Classic difficulty, but the heads do too much damage on Expert and Master Mode and are best dodged. For accessories, speed and mobility are always a plus, but since you'll likely have the Goblin Tinkerer by now, you should shoot for at least Spectre or Lightning Boots. Double jump items and or Fledgling Wings are also nice to have, but beyond that, additional health regen or damage boosting accessories are also fine choices. If you're using a swinging melee weapon or summoner whip, Feral Claws from the jungle are extremely nice so you'll have auto swing, and on Expert or Master Mode keep your Shield of Cthulhu handy for dashing out of the way of charging heads or into them for extra damage and style points. For weapons, there's really a large variety of options that will work, especially on Classic difficulty. The main quality you want to look for is piercing, especially for ranged and magic weapons. For melee characters, good positioning is key. You can maximize your damage output by getting up close and personal with multiple cross sections, and riding the worm can actually be quite effective. A decent sword such as the Lightsbane with Feral Claws works pretty well, and although it takes some practice, the Ball of Hurt from Shadow Orbs can also be used and is extremely effective if you can launch it straight along segments of the body. Above the surface on Expert and Master Mode, you can also simply spin the Ball of Hurt around you to destroy almost all of the vile spit, though it's still much easier going below ground if using this weapon on higher difficulties. For ranged characters, I'm not a big fan of guns for this fight. While they certainly can be used, their lack of piercing will make them comparatively slow going, and something like the Mini Shark will chew through a ton of ammunition. Better options are a good bow such as the Demon Bow using either Jester's arrows or Unholy arrows for their piercing properties. An even better option is bone throwing knives crafted from sturdy fossil from the desert. These work great when thrown down or along straight sections of the body and will shred the boss even on Master Mode. Another option that works surprisingly well are spiky balls purchased from the Goblin Tinkerer. One of the nice things about this weapon is it stays on the ground dealing damage to the boss as the boss passes through, and will also destroy any vile spits they cross paths with. It's a good idea to run around like crazy, tossing balls everywhere to keep each level of platform covered with spikes to maximize damage to the boss. Pre-placing spiky balls also works well with other weapon strategies to front load some damage as the fight gets started, but do note that they will only stick around for 1 minute or until they deal damage 6 times. For magic weapons, only the Amber, Ruby, and Diamond staffs have piercing, so I wouldn't use any of the other staffs. And even then, those staffs only pierce 1 time. They work moderately well overall, but if you manage to get a Vile Thorn from a Shadow Orb, it is fantastic, even on Master Mode. You'll definitely want to have mana regeneration potions, and magic power really helps as well. Extra bonus points if you put together a suit of jungle armor for some nice magic boosting bonuses. Other than that, there aren't really any other good options at this point for mages, unless of course you've taken out Skeletron first, and found a Water Bolt or Aqua Scepter in the dungeon. Both of these weapons completely shred the Eater, and Water Bolt in particular works great on For the Worthy Master Mode. For summoners, there typically aren't a lot of options for minions at this stage of the game, but if you're lucky and find a Finch Staff or Slime Staff, they can be used, and a Flinx Staff can be crafted if you farmed the Flinx Fur from the snow biome. A Flinx Fur coat will give you an extra minion summon and pairs well with Ancient Shadow Helmet and Greaves if you found them. Otherwise, top level metal armor is just fine. Overall though, you'll be waiting a long time for your minions to take down the boss, so you'll need to help them out. And weapon-wise, your best bet as a summoner, and an all-around good weapon against the Eater at all difficulty levels, is the Snapthorn Whip crafted from materials found in the jungle, especially if you have some feral claws for auto swing and increased speed. All things considered though, the Eater of Worlds isn't too tough of a boss even on Master Mode, and especially if you have good defense. It's a great boss to farm for money and can be quite a lot of fun experimenting with different weapons and gear setups. And with all the shadow scales the boss drops, you'll be able to make a nightmare pickaxe and other tools and weapons, as well as shadow scale mail, both of which will help you move forward along the path of progression. Thanks for watching, let me know what your favorite weapon or strategy is against the boss down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!